Welcome to Bhagavatam. Today I'm going to talk to you something about surrender. It's not a common thing that we think of surrender. Most people believe that surrender is something bad, something that you do when you give up, something that let's say if you're in a battle and then someone surrenders to the enemy, you give up and you've lost the battle. But in spiritual terms, it's quite the opposite. Let's take a look at what it means. In spirituality, surrender means something very different than it does in material terms. It's not about giving up. It's not about losing. It's not even about sacrificing anything. Surrender in spirituality is the greatest way in which one can approach the divine. Surrender means offering all of oneself, body, mind, spirit, in every way, to that which created us. Why would you do that? It sounds like a ridiculous concept to most people. We're so busy trying to be something. We're trying to be so, we're so caught up in trying to achieve. We're so caught up in trying to prove ourselves, our worth, our greatness. And if you look at how people talk on New Year's Day, that's like, yes, you got to find your greatness. You got to find your passion. You got to find what makes you special. But on the spiritual journey, all these are a waste of time, a total waste of time. Why? Because spirituality has nothing to do with the ego. In fact, it's about overcoming the egoic self. It's about discovering who you really are, past the ego, past the mind, past all of the contortions of our conditioning and our wounding and our life story and everything else that we've been told that we are, the entire falsity of life. It's finding the truth about our true identity. And it's from that place that we want to come into spirituality. So I'm going to take us through a really interesting journey today of discovering the true identity of who we are. And it begins with surrender. It begins with releasing that which is false, releasing the ego, the false self. And only when we release the false self can we discover the true self. Only when we let go that which is unreal, that is this body, mind, organism, which seems so real, can we find that eternal self, the soul, and its connection to the divine self or God. So let's go on a little journey here and see what comes up. So in the journey of the Bhagavatam, we now come to the 8th canto. And the 8th canto is very significant because here we're going to, well, you'll see. It begins with King Parikshit wanting to know more about the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who created this cosmic manifestation. What were his activities in the past, the present, and in the future? Can you imagine having such a thirst to want to know God? It doesn't just belong in one particular time. Most people think, oh, God is just, some incarnation, some avatar, some messenger, someone who appeared at some time. But no, God has been appearing again and again and again in our world and attempting to reach out to us, attempting to show us the way through various persons, through various personalities, in various avatars, through various incarnations. God has been coming to this world again and again and again. You say, why? Why would God bother? Because we matter to God. We are tiny little specks in the universe, tiny little beings, microcosm in this universal grand scheme of things. We're like smaller, if you think of your body, we're smaller than a tiny atom within this body. We're that tiny compared to the universe. So Parikshit, the great king, was speaking with the great sage Shukdev, and he was asking him all kinds of questions about the source of everything, the universe, God. And he wanted to know, tell me more. The more he heard, the greater his thirst grew. The more he understood, the more he wanted to know. It was like a bottomless pit. It was this endless search, this endless ocean. Some people think that, oh, I found a particular religion and now that's it. I've just got this one book and I got it. But one who's a true seeker never stops seeking. One who's truly interested in God begins to find God in every religion, in every book, in every text, in literature, in poetry, in music, in the world, in people, in everything and everyone. That's a seeker. And there's not, as many seekers as there are people who are believers. It's easy to believe. Because you know what? Believing is a finality. Believing is an endpoint. I know now. I know something. And when you know something, and when you believe something, it's a great feeling. Oh, I've arrived. But to be a seeker, you never arrive. You're always hungry. You're always wanting to know more. You're always curious. Socrates said it beautifully. He said, to know that you do not know is the greatest step to knowledge. How can one know God? You and I, who are infinitesimal, who are fragmental beings, how can we know that which is infinite? Only by always remaining curious. Only by always remaining hungry, thirsty, desirous to know more and more and more. That was the state of King Parikshit. He wanted to know more. And so the great sage Sukadev, in his great wisdom, began to reveal that more and more to him. He starts off by telling him about something that may seem very fantastic to us, but I'll try and share it with you. He tells him that the source of everything, or God, doesn't do the creating himself. He has a person in charge, Brahma. And Brahma has a very long life. His 12 hours, or one day of Brahma is called one kalpa, which lasts 4.32 billion earth years, during which time there are 14 Manus, different beings called Manu. They have the title of Manu, 6 of whom have appeared, the first of whom was Swayambhuva. So I tell you this because it's just fascinating, the numbers. And so he goes on to tell about how Manu, the first Manu, Swayambhuva, although he was married, was not attached to any enjoyment of the senses. That's a strange thing for us to hear in modern times. We're so attached to our senses. We're so attached to pleasure. We're so attached to enjoyment. Everything we live for, everything we work for, everything we do is so that we may enjoy. And people will say, I want my kids to be happy, and I want my spouse to be happy, and I want to be happy. And we think that happiness is acquired by enjoyment of the senses. But is it? Or is that just momentary? Is that illusory? Is that enjoyment just something that's like a mirage? Yeah, it feels good to have some nice food, to drink something. There's so many pleasures in this world, but they don't truly satisfy us. And that's why we're always wanting more and more of those pleasures. No pleasure as such ever truly satisfies. On the other hand, I talked about being hungry for spirituality, but the truth is that does satisfy. It's just that it's a never-ending quest. It's a never-ending satisfaction. It's a never-ending bliss. Anyway, Manu was, although he was married, he was not attached to the enjoyment of the senses, so he went to the forest with his wife and they meditated. How did he meditate? Back then, meditation was very difficult. He stood on one leg, he chanted mantras, and he went into a deep trance. And he did that for 100 years. I mean, he had a long lifetime, but he did that for 100 years. So, can we do that in today's time? Absolutely not. I can't even stand on one leg for a few minutes. I'll be falling over. In this age of Kali, the age of quarrel, hypocrisy, dissension, we are given simpler methods, simpler mantras, simpler ways in which to do it, because it is known that we will not be able to do those complex things of earlier times. People at that time did not have the distractions or the conditioning or the kind of lifestyle that we have today. Their life was simpler, easier, and they were more wise and more profound. We believe that we've advanced greatly, but in fact we haven't. So, something for another day. We'll talk about that. So, what he started saying was, as he was in his meditation, he started uttering some incredible insights. And these were the insights he got. He said, the supreme living being has created this material world, but he is not created by this world. We are all created by the world, right? We're a product of the world. Parents, and then our conditioning, and then everything else is a product of the world. We are a product of the world. He says the supreme living being has created this material world, but he is not created by this world. The living entities do not know him, but he knows everything. So a lot of people will sometimes claim, oh, I'm God, you're God, we're all God. No, very simple definition. He knows everything. Can you claim to know everything? No, you can't be God. Sorry, disqualified. Although he is constantly witnessing the activities of the world, no one sees him. The Supreme Godhead has no beginning and no end and no middle, nor does he belong to a particular person or nation. And if I may add, or any religion for that matter. He does not belong to any particular person or nation or religion. He has no inside or outside. What do I mean by that? He does not belong to any nation or religion. I mean that God is far bigger than that. Religions were invented by men, humans. The real seeking for God is the seeking for the infinite, and the infinite cannot be contained within our small, petty, little personalities or nations or religions or opinions or whatever it is we think. Cannot be the product of our thought. As long as we think we can capture the source of everything or God within the box of our mind, the limitations of our thought or our beliefs or our ego, we are greatly mistaken. He continues, he says, the dualities found within this material world, such as beginning and end, mine and yours, are all absent from him. He is present everywhere, within everyone, as their friend. He is the ultimate truth and is complete in greatness. He has millions of names and unlimited potencies. He is self-effulgent. See, a fire needs a spark of something, and then it burns out, right? It's not self-effulgent. It's not like it can just burn on forever. He is self-effulgent. He is unborn. Never was there a time when he did not exist, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. But he also says, never was there a time when you did not exist, nor any of us. And he is changeless. At a soul level, we are all changeless. But as a human, we're constantly changing. This world is constantly changing, and so are we. He is the beginning of everything, but he has no beginning. Because he has created this cosmic manifestation by his external energy, the universe appears to be created, maintained, and annihilated by him. So he has what is called the external energy and an internal energy. The external energy is this world, and he is separate from it. And then he has the internal energy, which is his spiritual potency, which is very different than the external energy. The external energy is this world, and it's a world of illusions. It's a world of make-believe. It's a world in which things appear to be a certain way, but in fact they're not. But it looks so real, and it's so believable that we've all bought into it. We all feel this is what we've got to do. We've got to work hard. We've got to, have a home. We've got to have our family. We've got our kids. There's so many things that we believe in and we live for. And yet that's all part of his external energy, and it's all illusory. I'm not saying we just walk away from it, but I'm saying at least know it for what it is. Scientists know it. They look at the world through a microscope and they can understand immediately that it's 99.9% air. There's nothing here. It's energy. It's just atoms and protons moving in space, creating the illusion of reality. In quantum physics, that becomes very clear. So he says, nonetheless, he remains inactive in his spiritual energy and is untouched and unentangled by the activities of this world. He works just like an ordinary human being, but he does not desire to enjoy the fruits of work. In other words, he comes to this world again and again, trying to inspire us, trying to help us, appearing like an ordinary human being. He is full in knowledge, free from material desires and diversions, and completely independent. As the supreme teacher of human society, he teaches the real path of Dharma. Dharma is to understand your true nature, your true self, to understand the nature of the universe, to understand the nature of God. So he says, I request everyone to follow him. Swayambhuva Manu thus chanted the mantras of the Vedic instruction known as the Upanishads. So the Upanishads come from Swayambhuva Manu. But now we're going to move into a fascinating little story. And this is the story of Gajendra. Gajendra was an elephant. And this is the story of this elephant. You'll think, what's there about an elephant? Oh, but there's a lot to be learned here, a great deal to be learned. The great sage Sukdev is speaking to the king Parikshit, and he says, my dear King Parikshit, there is a very large mountain called Trikuta. It is 80,000 miles high and wide. This is not within this earth, okay? There's no such thing here. It's somewhere in the galaxy, far, far away. Its peaks are made of iron, silver, gold, jewels, and minerals. It is decorated with trees, creepers, shrubs, jungle animals, and the pleasing sounds of waterfalls. The inhabitants of the higher planetary systems visit Mount Trikuta, which has many lakes, rivers, and beaches covered by small gems resembling grains of sand. The water there is clear as crystal. And when the female demigods bathe in those waters, their bodies lend fragrance to the breeze, enriching the atmosphere. In a valley of the mountain, there was a garden owned by a great devotee, Varun, which was a sporting place for the damsels of the demigods. Varieties of flowers and fruits grew there in all seasons. In that garden, there was a very large lake filled with many types of flowers, including shining golden lotuses. Intoxicated bumblebees drank honey and hummed with the chirping of the birds, whose songs were very melodious. The lake was crowded with swans and many species of birds. The leader of the elephants, Gajapati, So Gaja in Sanskrit is an elephant. Gajapati is the leader of the elephants who lived in the forest of the Trikuta mountain, once wandered towards the lake with his female elephants. He broke many plants, creepers, thickets, and trees, not caring for their piercing thorns. Simply by catching scent of the elephant, all the other elephants, the tigers, and ferocious animals fled in fear. As Gajapati, the leader of the elephants, walked the Trikuta mountain, it trembled because of the weight of his body. The king of the elephants entered the lake. He bathed thoroughly and was relieved of his fatigue. Then with his trunk he drank the cold, clear nectarian water, which was mixed with the dust of lotus flowers and water lilies, until he was fully satisfied. Like one who is too attached to his family, the elephant playfully raised water from the lake with his trunk and sprayed it on his wives and children. At that time, a strong crocodile, angry at the elephant for having come into his space, the crocodile space, which is the water of the lake. So, angry with the elephant, he attacked his leg in the water. The elephant was certainly strong and he tried his best to get free. His wives began to cry. The other elephants tried to help him, but because of the crocodile's great strength, they couldn't. The king of elephants, Gajendra, and the crocodile fought, pulling one another in and out of the water. This went on for years. Upon seeing the fight, the demigods were very surprised. After a long time, the elephant became diminished in mental and physical strength. The crocodile, on the contrary, being an animal of the water, increased in enthusiasm, strength, and power. You know how it is, right? When you're on the land, a shark won't have much power over you. But when you're in the water, you're powerless. You have no strength like that shark. Or like in this case, the crocodile. That's in their home, their place, and they have supreme power there. We become weak and helpless. So here he was, weak and helpless, this great, powerful, incredibly powerful elephant who could have beaten any number of elephants or even attacked tigers and lions on land. But here in the water, he was no longer in his hometown, in his homeland, so to speak. He was weak. When the king of elephants realized that he was helpless and could not save himself from danger, he became extremely afraid of being killed. He thought for a long time, the other elephants, my friends, relatives, and wives, could not rescue me from this danger. So think about it. In our own lives, no matter how wealthy you are, no matter how powerful you are, no matter how great you are, no matter how many family members you have or friends you have, they can't save you from so many of the dangers of this world. When those dangers strike, that danger could be old age, disease, death. That danger could be, catastrophic occurrences within nature. That danger could be the economy. That danger could be a war that takes place. There's only so much people can do to help you. And then there comes a time where no one's able to help. Then what do you do then? Where do you turn? Who will you look to? Because many of those problems will come to all of us. Old age will come to all of us. Our body will stop functioning the way it used to. Disease will come to all of us. And death will come to all of us. Who will save us from these things? We think our doctors, our hospitals will save us. But there's only so much they can do. They can help us to a point. And beyond that, they have no control. So it is at those times that we begin to realize how helpless indeed we are. Now, one shouldn't wait for those times to occur. One should begin to realize this now. If you're here and if you're seeking and if you want to know, then know it now and practice it now. Practice what? Surrender. Surrender how? We will learn from Gajendra. So Gajendra, the elephant, began to say, because when he realized no one could help him, from this danger. And because he knew he was losing the battle with the crocodile, he began to think, it is by the will of providence that I have been attacked by this crocodile, and therefore I shall now seek shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If one seeks shelter, he gives them protection, for even death runs away in fear of him. I therefore surrender unto him, the great and powerful Supreme Authority, who is the actual shelter of everyone. Now, how is an elephant talking like this? How is that possible? Is something, is a made-up story or what? No. The reality was this, that in his previous birth, this person, Gajendra, the king of elephants, was King Indradyumna. He was a Vaishnava, a devotee of Vishnu, a devotee of God. He was the ruler of the kingdom of Pandya in South India. Now, something had happened and he'd been cursed. And we'll come to that story. But here he was as an elephant in this life. That can happen to any of us, that we somehow find ourselves in a human body or we find ourselves in a different species altogether. It can happen to any of us. So now as he called on the Supreme Being by God's grace, he remembered the mantra. It suddenly popped into his mind. Have you ever had that happen? Something just pops into your mind. You never thought about it. You don't know where it came from, but it just comes. Insight, wisdom, that's how it comes. So he had been a devotee in his past life. And Krishna says that whatever spiritual growth you've made in your previous life is never lost. It will always be there. So although now he was in the body of an elephant, that knowing started to come through because he was in that helpless state, because he was in that state of surrender, because he was in the state of having let go the struggle of material existence. And the mantra came to him, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This might appear to be strange to you. You don't know Sanskrit. But what it means is, I offer my respectful obeisances, my respect unto the Supreme Person, Vasudev. Vasudev means the son of Vasudev. Krishna was the son of Vasudev. So he's known as Vasudev. I offer my respects, my namo. Namo means naman. You've heard of the word namaste, right? Namaste comes from namo. Namo comes from naman. Naman means no mind. It is in a state of no mind that we can know God. It is in a state of no mind that we can approach God, truly approach God. When you approach God with your mind, you'll come to God and say, oh God, give me something, give me a house, give me a car, give me a child, give me a wife, a husband, or whatever else. Solve my problem, fix my, my taxes, like take care of me, or someone's sick or someone's whatever. You say, oh, I'll pray for them and they'll become better. You're still in your mind. You're still in your mind and you're asking God to solve your problems, which are for you to solve. If God goes around trying to solve everybody's problems, God's going to go nuts. So he lets you deal with your stuff. That's not his job. But when you come to him from no mind, naman, na-man, right? When you come from with naman, with deep respect, with deep surrender, with deep letting go, then he can reach you. It says in the Bible also, be still and know that I am God. Because only in stillness can you know God. Only in stillness, naman, in no mind. Only in no mind can you know God. So he then says the mantra. And then he begins to pray. He says, because of you, O God, this material body acts due to the presence of spirit. Very wise. The body by itself can do nothing. It is only because of the presence of spirit that this body moves, that it talks, that is able to do whatever it does. But by itself, the body is useless. When the soul leaves the body cannot even function. It cannot move. It cannot breathe. The heart stops. Everything stops. But when the soul is there, as it is now, You can see, you can hear, you can talk, you can walk, you can dance, you can sing. It's all because of the soul, not because of your body. We live in a culture where the body is given so much of importance. People want to decorate it. They want to buy all kinds of clothes and makeup and this and that. They want to exercise. They want to be fit. They want to do all these things for the body. But I ask you, what are you doing for your soul? Because that's who you are. You've gotten lost in this world trying to just honor the body, or else honor the mind. But that's not you. You're not the body. You're not the mind. You have a body. You have a mind. Don't let them control you. Don't become their servant. Right? Don't make them the goal of your life, because you will leave them behind. You will leave this body behind. You will leave this mind behind. This whole organism will be left behind. Your soul will move to another body at the time of leaving here. For one who is born, it is certain he will die. And for one who dies, it is certain he will be born again. The soul gives up an old and useless body and takes on another body at the time of death. The wise, knowing this, do not lament for either life or death. So now he's praying. Gajendra, the elephant, is praying, and he's saying, this body acts due to the presence of spirit, and you, O God, O Krishna, O Vishnu, you are the root cause of everything. You have entered into the heart of every living being. Let me meditate upon you. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me alone comes knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. You want to forget him? He'll help you forget him. You want to remember him? He'll help you remember him. What do you want? If you want to know God, you can know God. If you want to see God, you can see God. If you want to feel God, you can feel God. What do you want? How deep is your wanting? How much do you want? Right? That's what matters. So you have entered into the heart of every living being. Let me meditate upon you. You are the ingredient of this world. Everything is made of you, O God. Every atom, everything that you see is made of God. You are the cause of everything, and you are the creator of this cosmic manifestation. I surrender unto you who are self-sufficient, meaning who doesn't need anything, who doesn't need any of this, who doesn't need the world, who will create it and then destroy it, like children do with a sandcastle. You are the supreme cause and the result, the observer and the witness. In all circumstances, you are transcendental to everything. See, you and I are not transcendental. We are affected by everything. We are infected by everything, in fact. Everything bothers us. Everything impacts us. So we like certain things. We dislike other things. We're constantly playing that game. But when he says you are transcendental to everything, it means you are above all of this. You are not affected by all of this. Just like when you are in an airplane, you're flying above the clouds. And now even if it's raining, even if it's sunny, whatever it is, you're not affected by it. If it's snowing down on the earth, if you're in an airplane above the clouds, the snow is not going to come to you. You're not going to be affected by the rain or any of the other circumstances of the people who are below the clouds. So that's what it means to be transcendental, beyond, transcending. He says, therefore, I take shelter of your lotus feet. Please give me protection. It is so valuable to be able to have someone you can call on. A lot of folks believe in energy, the universe. That's impersonal. How do you talk to someone who's the universe? How do you reach out to someone? How do you call on someone? How do you have a relationship? Like, how do you have a bonding that you know this is someone who's there for me? How? You don't. Because you're dealing with something completely impersonal. That's what it means, the energy, the universe. But when there's something personal, and if that something personal is loving and caring and adores you, and you adore that being, it's a relationship of love. In that love, you are protected. You are taken care of. And that's what it means to have a true bonding with the divine or with God. Gajendra, the elephant, continues. He says, an actor on stage wears attractive dresses and dances but it's not understood by his audience. So, I mean, they understand the dance, they understand the acting and admire the dresses, but they may not understand the actor behind, who's behind that. So similarly, the activities and features of the supreme artist, as God, cannot be understood even by the devas, the demigods, or great sages, wise people, and certainly not by those who are unintelligent animals like myself. May that supreme personality of Godhead give me protection. So here he is, remember, he's in the stages of being pulled into the water by this crocodile. And now his past life wisdom is emerging. And as it emerges, he begins to pray and call out. He says, great sages and devotees desire to see his all auspicious lotus feet. May he be my ultimate destination. The Supreme Godhead has no material birth, activities, name, form, qualities, or faults. To fulfill the purpose for which this material world is created and destroyed, he comes in human forms like Rama or Krishna and acts wonderfully. But he is always free from material contamination. He is the Supreme Brahman, and I offer respects to him. So I don't know if you're aware of who these characters are that he's talking about. This is Rama and Sita. These are avatars of Vishnu. The ultimate of all of them is Krishna and Radha, the masculine and divine, masculine and feminine. Radha and Krishna. And their incredible divine love. We'll be talking a lot more about that as we go on. And here again we see Radha and Krishna. And then we have Vishnu. So all these are different manifestations of the Supreme. And he comes at different times to bring wisdom to us, to show us the ways of Dharma, the ways in which we need to live, the ways we need to transcend this world for moksha. And ultimately we need to be able to come to that place where we are completely in connection with the divine, in love with the divine. So he continues, he says, that Supreme Being is self-effulgent. He is the super soul, the Paramatma or witness in everyone's heart. He's in your heart, in my heart. And he enlightens us, he guides us, he tries to help us. Most of the time we're not listening. Most of the time we're so busy in our head that we're not listening to that little tiny voice within us that is trying to say, hey, that's not good for you. I don't think you should be doing that. We don't listen. But if we did, if only we did, our life would change. It's not that we need some religion. It's not that we need some institution. God is right here, guiding you. You can go to an institution, that's great. You can read a book if you like, no problem. But the ultimate thing is right here with you, always, has never left your side, is your best friend, cares about you more than any other human being. Human beings may come and go, but this voice within you, this guide within you, this presence within you of the divine, of God, that never leaves. Then he says, he, that Supreme Being, is the bestower of uncontaminated happiness and is the master of the transcendental world. What do you mean by uncontaminated happiness? Think about it. Our happiness in this world is always contaminated. Very often it's just a relief from suffering. I'm hot, I turn on the AC, I feel a little better. I'm cold, I turn on the heater, and I think I'm happy now. I'm hungry, I eat some food, I think I'm happy. I got a nice full belly. But all I've done is I've relieved my suffering. So most of what we call happiness in this world is the relieving of an itch, the relieving of some suffering, the relieving of some problem. We think of that as happiness, but it's not. Uncontaminated happiness does not have a cause. It does not have a problem that is trying to be solved. It's just arising from within. It's just filling you from within. There is no reason, no cause, no nothing. It's just pure bliss. And he says, he is the bestower of uncontaminated happiness and is the master of the transcendental world. We want to be masters too, right? But we're trying to be masters of this world. What is the use of that? You can be master for a few days, a few weeks, a few years. And then what? then as your body ages and as you get older and as you die, what are you going to take with you? None of it. Then he says, Gajendra is speaking again back, this is the elephant. He's saying, the material world is just like a shadow resembling him. Indeed, one accepts this material world as real because it gives a glimpse of his existence. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. This is really profound. He's saying here that this world gives you a glimpse of God. What does that mean? Let me break it down for you. Everything you're wanting in this world, you want happiness. Why do you want happiness? You want happiness because, in fact, it's here. It's in your soul. It's the nature of God. He's Ananda, Sat-Chit Ananda. He is the source of all bliss. And therefore, you seek happiness. You seek happiness thinking that you will get it from the world, but you don't. It doesn't happen. And yet happiness was within you all along. This which is within you, this soul that is within you, is a tiny part of God. And when you know that tiny part, you know something about God. It's not about a book. It's not about a teaching. It's not even about a guru. It's about this experience. And this experience is real for all of us. You don't have to believe anything. You just have to quiet your mind. Naman. In that state of naman, in that state of humility, in that state of inner peace, you can feel the presence of God. You can feel it. You can experience it. You can know it now. And so he says, this world is a reflection of God. This body exists because God has a form. That form is not physical like this. It is spiritual. It has no birth. It has no death. It does not experience any of that stuff. It is not subject to the pains and pleasures of this world. It's a spiritual form that is eternal, that is consciousness, and that is at the same time full of bliss. Sat Chit Ananda. And we too are made of the same stuff. So he continues here saying, my Lord, you are the cause of all causes. Think of this, the cause of all causes. Can anything you've come across be the cause of all causes? All causes, like if you go back, you go back, you go back, you go back further and further and further. What is the original cause? The original cause, that is Krishna, the Supreme Being. You are the cause of all causes, and you yourself have no cause. Therefore, you are the wonderful cause of everything. Because you give liberation means you give liberation, mukti, from all suffering, from this world, from the mind, from the problems that are all around you. You experience liberation here and now. Because you give liberation, you are the only shelter for all spiritual seekers and transcendentalists. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you. My Lord, those who are completely freed from material contamination always meditate upon you within the core of their heart. You are extremely difficult to attain for those like me who are too attached to home, relatives, friends, and family. You are uncontaminated by this world. You are the reservoir of all enlightenment, the supreme controller. May that supreme being, that supreme personality of Godhead, who is unlimitedly merciful, bestow upon me the benediction of liberation from this present danger and from the materialistic way of life. Think about it. Is that something you might like? Is that something you might want? Write down in the chat. I'd love to know. I'd love to know your thoughts. Would you like the benediction of being liberated from all the sufferings of this world? Would you like to be free of the mind's harassment, of the body's problems that it gives you? Would you like to be free of the problems caused by other people to you? Maybe friends, maybe lovers, maybe partners, maybe whatever, or people at work. Would you like to be liberated and free from all of that? If you want that, then he's telling you, here's the key. The unlimitedly merciful Supreme Being wants to bestow the benediction of liberation upon you. And please understand this, it has nothing to do with any particular religion. I use a name that we use in the Vedas, but you might want to call God by any other name. And Shakespeare said it beautifully. He said, a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. We're interested in the sweetness. We're interested in the nectar. It does not matter if you want to go this way or that way. However you get there, get there. That's what matters. See experience the results that are being talked about out here. That's what matters. Then he continues, pure devotees have no desire other than to serve you. They worship you in full surrender and always hear and chant about your activities, which are most wonderful and auspicious. Thus they always merge in an ocean of transcendental bliss. Such devotees never ask you for any benediction. I, however, am in great danger. It's really a wonderful thing to hear about. Gajendra is being held by a crocodile. He's an elephant, powerful elephant, but he's being held by a crocodile. He's in the lake, and that crocodile is extremely powerful, and it won't let him go. Imagine being in such a situation where you're being held in the water like that. You can't get out, and no one's able to help you. His family, his friends, they're all there. They can't help him. And so therefore he has turned to God. He says, I do not wish to live anymore after I am released from the attack of the crocodile. I simply desire eternal liberation from the covering of this body, which will ultimately be destroyed by the influence of time. You are unborn and the supreme knower of everything. You are the protector of all surrendered souls. By your illusory energy, the living entities who are part of you forget their real identity and become absorbed in the bodily concept of life. Think about it. We are all in these shoes that Gajendra is finding himself in. We are all absorbed in the bodily concept of life. We think this is me. You think you're a man, you're a woman, you're whatever gender. But no, that is called the bodily concept of life. You think you're fat, you're thin, you're ugly, you're beautiful, you're young, you're old. That's all bodily concept of life. You think you're rich, you're poor, you're smart, you're stupid. You think you're worthy, you're unworthy, you're good enough, you're not good enough. All bodily concept of life. It's all based on this external dress that you're wearing. Once you recognize that you're not the dress, that you're the person who owns the dress. And maybe the dress got a bit dirty. Maybe the dress got a little messed up. Okay, but it's just a damn dress. The real you was uncontaminated. The real you has always been perfect. The real you has never been unworthy or never been not good enough. It's always been incredibly powerful, incredibly beautiful, incredibly divine. And nothing will ever change that. That's who you are. That's the essence of your beingness. And that is the essence of God. So he says, I take shelter of you, the Supreme Godhead, whose glories are difficult to understand. I offer my respectful obeisances to you again and again. So now at this point, when the king of elephants, Gajendra, was describing the supreme authority, he did not mention any particular person. The demigods observed, but none of them approached him. There are many demigods. There are people, so in India, a lot of people say, oh, in Hinduism, they've got 33 million gods. Please, let's not be dumb here. Let's try to understand properly what this means. The demigods are devas. They are not God. They are not the supreme being. There are not 33 million gods. There are 33 million demigods. Just like you have many people in Congress, you have many people in the, running the administrative machinery of different states and so on and so forth. You have many demigods. You have many devas. And these devas manage the affairs of the universe. But the supreme being, that is one. Okay? It comes in many avatars, comes in many forms, but it's still one. It's like sometimes changes clothes, changes outfits, comes with different leelas, different pastimes. And that's just to attract us. Because some people like God this way and some people like God that way, just like we like different kinds of food. Somebody likes cheesecake and somebody's vegan and somebody is, meat eater and somebody's this or that or the other. Yeah, sure, we're all different. So the devas did not approach, the demigods did not approach Gajendra because he didn't call on them. But Vishnu, the supreme being, the supreme Godhead, he understood. He's calling on me. So he appeared on the back of his carrier Garuda. Now Gajendra, the elephant, had been forcefully captured by this crocodile in the water and was feeling acute pain. But when he saw Vishnu, Narayan, there are different names for the divine, Vishnu, Narayan, Hari, and ultimately Krishna. When he saw Vishnu appearing in the sky, he immediately took a lotus flower from the lake that he was in, and he held it in his trunk and held it up with great difficulty as an offering to the Lord. And he uttered the following words, "O my Lord Narayan, Master of the universe, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you." And here's a lovely picture of Gajendra. You'll see in the picture that Gajendra is holding up a lotus flower, and you'll also notice that the crocodile is holding him with its mouth. And that's a little more close up. And here again, another one, Vishnu coming in to help Gajendra. So Vishnu, the unborn supreme personality of Godhead, seeing Gajendra in such an aggrieved position by his causeless mercy, immediately pulled the king of elephants along with the crocodile out of the water. He then severed the crocodile's mouth from its body with his disc. He has a weapon that's like a disc, and cut off the crocodile's mouth. In this way, he saved Gajendra, the king of the elephants. Now you might say, "Oh my God, this is horribly cruel, the poor crocodile. Oh gosh, how could you do that to him?" It's his water, his lake, and the elephant had come in there. We gotta have some compassion for this crocodile. How can anything be harmed? So all the demigods, the devas who were watching this whole scene, they praised this action and showered flowers on Vishnu and Gajendra, and they began to dance and sing and offered prayers glorifying the Lord. Now this being who was in the form of the crocodile was actually a Gandharva, a Deva, a demigod who had been cursed by Devala Muni. His name was King Huhu, and he had become a crocodile because of the curse. And by Vishnu's doing this, he was now delivered and regained his original, very beautiful form as a Gandharva. Gandharvas are known for their singing and dancing and being very beautiful. Understanding by whose mercy this had happened, he immediately offered his respectful obeisances. Obeisances are like your namaste, naman. And he began chanting prayers to worship the transcendent Lord. He then returned to his kingdom in Gandharva Loka, being freed from all karma. Gajendra had been touched. Gajendra the elephant had been touched by the hands of the Supreme Being. He was thus freed from all material ignorance and bondage. He received the salvation of Sarupya Mukti, which means that he achieved the same bodily features as the divine, being dressed in yellow garments and possessing 4 hands. So here's another picture to try to illustrate that for you. You'll see Huhu is emerging out of the crocodile's body, and Gajendra has been awarded a spiritual form. He was originally King Indradyumna. I hope you're able to see that. So in his past life as King Indradyumna, the elephant Gajendra, so he used to be a king, and then he got cursed, and he became an elephant. Now, how did that happen? The king had retired from family life. At the end of life, most of the kings in ancient times used to do that. They wouldn't just sit around and try to become the president at the age of 70 and 80, as they do nowadays. No, they'd realize at some point, okay, I've become old enough, time to retire. And then they'd leave their kingdom, their palace, and everything else, and go to the forest. So he had gone to the forest to meditate. and fix his mind upon the Supreme. Why? Because life is not about just going on accumulating money till the end, till you drop. It's about moksha, liberation. So here he was, and living in a small cottage in the Malay hills. He had matted locks, kind of like dreadlocks, and he was engaged in austerities. Once, while observing a vow of silence, he was fully engaged in his worship, and he absorbed in the ecstasy of love of Godhead. And just in complete trance, right? Ecstasy of love of God. At that time, a great sage named Agastya Muni arrived there with his disciples. When Indradyumna, who was sitting in a secluded place, remained silent and did not follow the etiquette of offering the sage a reception, the sage became very angry. Agastya then cursed the king. He said, "This King Indradyumna is not at all gentle. Being low and uneducated, he has insulted a Brahmin, a priest, a sage. Therefore, he should enter the region of darkness and receive the body of an elephant." Now, you may say, how can a sage, a saintly person like that be angry? And it's often been very puzzling to hear about stories like that. But the reality is this: all of this is part of the Leela. Because if that had not happened, then he would not have become an elephant. If he'd not become an elephant, he would not be in that moment where that crocodile bit into his leg. And if that had not happened, the two of them, the elephant and the crocodile, would not have gained liberation because Vishnu would not have appeared. So all of that was something that was designed to happen. So many of the things that happen in our life are for a divine reason, and we don't understand it. We think, oh my God, it's so terrible, I'm so unfortunate, I'm so unlucky, this happened. But no, there is always something beautiful about to emerge. Always look out for that. It's there, and it will show up. The wisdom, the beauty, the deeper purpose behind it will show up. You will grow through that process. All right, so this sage who cursed him left with his disciples. The king accepted the curse as a blessing of the Supreme Being. I guess it's a blessing from God. And it was because of his devotion that in the moment of greatest danger, as an elephant, he was able to remember the Supreme Godhead and offer prayers to him. So after liberating Indradyumna from his elephant body, Vishnu, the Lord, sitting on the back of his carrier Garuda, returned to his all-wonderful abode and took the king with him. Those who hear this narration become fit to be promoted to the higher planetary systems. Yes, you get to be promoted to the higher planetary systems. You get to go to the places where devas live and enjoy life there. Or you realize that even that is not worth it. That beyond all of that, because all of them are, as Krishna says in the Gita, he says, they're all places of suffering wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who comes to my abode never returns to this temporary and miserable world. Anyway, it says here, those who hear the narration become fit to be promoted to the higher planetary systems. Simply because of hearing this narration, they will be unaffected by the contamination of Kali Yuga, this time that we live in, and never see bad dreams. After getting up from bed in the morning, one should chant this narration as it is to counteract the troubles of bad dreams. All right, so if you have questions, and I see lots of questions have been asked, I'm going to take those up now, and let's see what we got. Those of you that are joining on Facebook, I hope there's a way you can write comments, and I'd love to read what you've been writing. All right, let me see here. Silly asks, I did write my statements and questions on an earlier podcast. Okay. Same here, Silly. I was the last one, waiting for this one to start. Okay. These chapters remind me of the 7 principles. Enlighten me, Silly. 7 principles. I'd love to know more about that. By the way, I'm always curious to learn more. There's never an end, right? There's always something we can learn. So go ahead, tell me more about it. What are the 7 principles that you're referring to? Oh, here they are. 7 principles. The principle of mentalism, of correspondence, of vibration, of polarity, of rhythm, of cause and effect, and of gender. I guess I need to understand a little more from you. Sometime, Silly, we should talk and find out. I'd love to learn more about what these are and how they fit in here and what parallels you're seeing. So enlighten me sometime about that. The all is mind. The universe is mental. I see. Perhaps you're saying what the Vedas have been talking about, that how this universe appears real only because we have a mind. The moment you go beyond the mind, the moment you're able to quiet the mind, the universe, you're able to see through what's going on out here. You're able to see past the illusion. It's sort of like you snap out of the illusion and you're able to wake up. And that's the awakening process, is because otherwise we're so trapped by our mind, we're so wrapped up in whatever it's telling us that we think this is real, but it's not. The mind is always deceiving us. It's so many times it happens, right? It tells us that, oh, this person doesn't like me, or this person is mad at me, or this person, or this means that. And 9 out of 10 times, if you really try to find out, you'll find out it's been wrong. Your mind was deceiving you. Your mind is the greatest deceiver of all. Yes, there are some things it knows, like, tangible stuff. But for the most part, it doesn't know. My mind's constantly trying to make up stories. How about yours? Right? Future Night writes, so this life living in society is only concepts, ideas, and costumes. You are absolutely right. Absolutely right. Just concepts, ideas, and costumes. All made up. All made up. And the more you go into that state of no mind, the more you go into that state where your mind is quiet and peaceful, the more you're able to see through the illusions of the world. The more you're able to understand that you're being deceived, constantly deceived. In reality, there is no suffering. The majority of suffering is in our head. The majority of all the anxiety we feel, the depression we feel, the hopelessness, the sadness, the worthlessness, all of that is manufactured by your mind. All of that. Tune it off, and suddenly there's no problem. I mean, there are some problems, yeah. You gotta eat, it's cold, it's hot. There are some problems, yes. But the real extent to which we feel and experience those problems is all made up here. And you may say, oh, I'm feeling something, but most of our feelings also arise from our thoughts. So a thought is a very dangerous thing. You have to watch it. You have to really observe it. Is it really true? Can I be absolutely sure that it is true? 9 out of 10 times it's not. It'll be the small percentage of time when it is. Silly says here, let's put this on the screen. Let's see. Of correspondence, as above, so below, so above. Of vibration, nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. Of polarity, everything is dual, everything has poles. Oh yes, absolutely right. Now, thank you so much. This makes it more clear. Of correspondence, as above, so below. Yes, that's what we were talking about earlier, that the world is a reflection of the divine. Of vibration, nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. Absolutely true. Right? And what was the last one? Everything has its pairs of opposites. Like, that's constantly the case. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half-truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. Yes, because that's what's constantly happening. Our mind is seeing the world in duality. It sees it as positive or negative, right or wrong, good or bad. I like this, I don't like this. I agree, I disagree. Constantly. And any place where we are caught up in that kind of dualistic thinking, we are in the trap of the mind. To become free of the mind, to be liberated from the mind, is to go past duality, to come to the place of non-duality where there is no positive or negative. There is no like or dislike. Everything just is. And it's a practice, day after day, moment after moment, to practice that. It's not going to happen automatically. It's going to take meditation, it's going to take practice, and it's going to take an awareness of this alternate reality that the Vedas are talking about. That's why we do these programs here. We're here every Tuesday. So if you're come for the first time, and many of you are here for the first time, please come back. We're here every Tuesday. We start around 7:05 Pacific time and about 10 o'clock Eastern. I would love to have you here. It's a wonderful opportunity to open your mind, to consider different possibilities, to learn from the Vedas. I've also got a YouTube channel, and you're most welcome to go there. Just look up Spiritual Awakening. I'm sorry, Spiritual Actualization. I keep getting this wrong. Spiritual Actualization, or my name, Rohit Juneja. And look for me there. I've got entire playlists on the Vedas, on these ancient texts. I've got entire playlists that tell you about how to work with your mind, entire courses there. So check it out, Spiritual Actualization. Or type in Rohit Juneja. Or Spiritual Wisdom Channel. Any three of these will do, and you'll get there. One last question here, and then we'll stop. When we were born, were we already in the duality illusion, or is that learned? Yes, we were already in the duality illusion, but it was not yet formed. It was not formed yet. We were still free. We were still sort of just coming into the world. We're starting to pick up all the nuances and getting programmed. See, this is a self-programming computer. And the people around us, they are the programmers, the parents, the teachers, the friends. They're all the programmers. This then starts programming itself. And as it programs itself, we then become what we think we are. But I want to tell you this right now. You are not who you think you are. You are not who you think at all. You are far more than that and far beyond that. So I'm here to help unravel that mystery. Please keep coming back. It's time for us to end for today, but I would love to hear you again, and join me as much as you can. And if you're not on our mailing list, drop me a line and let me know. I'd love to add your email to our mailing list and keep reminding you every Tuesday we're here. And would love to have you join in the discussion. Bring your questions. I love your questions. So please feel free to ask. Do not hesitate. Okay. Jai Shri Krishna. Hare Krishna. See you next week. Bye. Same time, 7 o'clock Pacific and 10 p.m. Eastern. Every Tuesday. See you then. Bye. Good night. Hey, good night, Joanne.